Hello, hello! Welcome back to the Low Action. Today we're going to talk about my favorite guitar that I've ever owned, ever. And of course, it's a Telecaster. This is my 2014 Fender Limited Edition American Telecaster Channel-Bound. Basically, it's an American Telecaster, but it has a few special features that makes it stand out from the rest. The main one being the channel-bound neck that kind of gives it like a bound look. I'm going to get into the specs. We're going to get into the story about how I got my hands on this guitar. And we're going to give it a listen. Cool. Stick around. It's going to be awesome. So, my wife and I were out and about one day, and we're driving by a guitar center, and I stop in and I said, hey, I need to get a set of strings for my guitar. So I stop in the guitar center and talking to the guy behind the counter, and as always I like to mill around the store since I'm there and see what they have. You know, I always hit up the used section, and there was two Telecasters hanging in the used section that day. There was this one, and there was a natural finish ash American Standard. And I immediately went to the ash, the natural finish, and I was like, oh, it's a nice guitar, it's a decent price. I'm playing it, I'm like, I like the feel of the neck feels great. And, you know, I just no real interest in buying a new guitar that day. Zero interest in buying a new guitar that day. Just playing it, just saying, hey, that's a neat guitar. So she's like, I like the blue one. The blue one is way prettier. It's like a robin's egg blue. So I walk over to it and I'm like, holy cow. It struck me. I was like, is that a bound neck? I have never seen the channel bound necks before. And I was like, it's a bound neck on a Telecaster. That's really cool. I've never seen that. I've seen bound bodies, but not necks. So I pulled it down and I was like, the color's really cool. The bound neck is really cool. I hated the feel of it. I hated the way it played. I was like, the channel-bound neck is a modern C shape, and it's a really fat neck. And I just really wasn't into it. But I plugged it into an amp because my wife was like, this guitar is really pretty. It's the prettiest guitar I've ever seen. You've got to buy this guitar. So I plugged it into an amp, and the sound was just amazing. And I love the way it looked. I love the way it sounded. But it had a $1,400 price tag, and I could not justify $1,400 on a guitar that looks cool and will probably just get looked at. So I'm like, I'm not spending $1,400 today. I'm going to go buy $10, $20 worth of strings, and we're going to leave, you know. And Jennifer was like, no, I insist you buy this guitar. It's really pretty. You need to buy it. I'm like, no, I'm not. Go to see a friend of mine who was working at the counter that day, and just chatting with him, and she's like, he wants to buy that blue guitar. And I said, no, I'm not buying a $1,400 Telecaster today. I don't need one. I have 4 others. And she's like, he's got a Guitar Center credit card. Just use that. So, needless to say, my credit card was swiped that day, and I came home with a Sonic Blue channel-bound Telecaster. Now, as I said, when I first originally played it, I did not like the neck. So if that's the case, how did this guitar become my favorite guitar? Well, after playing it a few hundred times, I got used to it. It's called a modern C-shaped neck, and it's really fat. It's almost like if you ever played a Gibson that has a vintage 50s neck on it, it's fat like that. But the thing about the fingerboard is it's called a compound radius fingerboard, and it goes from 9.5 radius, which is really round, perfect for chording, and it goes up to a 14-inch radius up here. So as you move up the neck, the radius changes. So when you're down here playing chords, it's the most comfortable. If you're up here soloing, it's the most comfortable. So any way you look at it, this guitar became really comfortable. I had been used to the standard Tele necks, which is 9 1/4 radius all the way up, a little thinner neck. I'd gotten used to that. So when I picked up something that had a big fat neck on it, it took me a while to get used to it, but once I did, it quickly became my favorite guitar. Also, it's something that this guitar has that most Teles don't, is the contour for the belly, which also makes it a lot more comfortable. So I ended up taking it home. As I said, my wife would not let me leave without it because it was pretty. And it is a pretty guitar. And it's been my main gigging guitar, my main recording guitar. It is the main guitar you will hear on the Church of the Lazy Bastards recording, which would be this record. Find it, give it a listen, and you'll hear what this guitar could do. All right, let's get into some specs. So this guitar is really similar to an American Standard. It does have an American Standard bridge, but with vintage saddles. It has the contour neck adjustment. I guess the biggest thing that makes this guitar different is the channel-bound neck. Now, what exactly is this? This is a one-piece maple neck, and what they did was they cut like tongue and groove style. They laid the rosewood in there. So there is no seam at the top between the fingerboard and the neck. There's no seam here. It's just hand rubbed oil. It's very soft, sleek feeling. There's no seam there. So that kind of gives it like a bound look, like a bound neck. And to me, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen because it's not only bound, but it's wood, and it's just gorgeous looking. But it's an alder body. You have two different type of pickups in this guitar. They both come from the Fender Custom Shop. The neck pickup is what's called a twisted Tele neck pickup. And what that is they kind of have it voiced like a Stratocaster neck pickup, which I actually think is better. I was never really a fan of Telecaster neck pickups. I always thought they were kind of bland and boring. So this one kind of reacts more like a Stratocaster to give you that bluesy David Gilmour type of sound, which I like better. The bridge pickup is a broadcaster pickup, which gives you like a vintage Tele sound. Normally I do not like vintage pickups, vintage Tele pickups. I don't like pickups that are wound like vintage pickups. And the reason for that is vintage, if you ever played a vintage Telecaster, they sound weak and they sound thin compared to modern Telecasters. That's just because technology, man. They've learned to make pickups better. They're double wound. They get more humbucking capabilities. They're using better coils, ceramic coil, whatever. So this is a broadcaster pickup, but it's kind of wound like a modern bridge pickup. So it still has a vintage voice, but it's not thin and weak like a vintage pickup. The channel-bound neck, the only modification I did to this guitar was I installed locking tuners. I got some Fender locking tuners on it. CTS pots, 250K, and of course the 250K Fender no-load tone control. I'm sure you've seen that in my other videos. If not, it's basically a master tone pot, and when you turn it all the way up, it clicks into like a little position, and once you're in that position, it cuts out all tone circuitry. So your pickups wired to volume, wired to the output jack. When you just pull it out of that notch, now you have a normal master volume tone that you could use, but it kind of locks into place and cuts out all tone circuitry. This is the first guitar I ever had that had a no-load tone control. Basically, when I got this guitar, I discovered it. I'm like, what is this little notch? Did some research, figured out what it was, and I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. And it just kind of adds more of a tele twang to the guitar, I think, which I wanted on all of my Telecasters. So from here on out, every time I built a guitar or bought a guitar, the tone pot was exchanged for a no-load tone control. And that's just what I use. So not much to it other than that. It's just a standard American Tele. I love the way it looks, though. I think it's gorgeous. It is probably the best sounding Telecaster I have as well, which we're going to get into right now. I do want to preface this by saying I'm launching some other projects here real soon, so I've been busy working on those other projects, and I didn't have a ton of time to set up a camera, to mic up a deluxe reverb, and shoot video of me taking sound samples like I normally do. So what I did for the sound samples for this guitar is I went into a Boss Katana, which I think is a great little amp. And then I went from the recording out of the Boss Katana directly into my DAW. I know you tube amp purists are probably going to hate me for this and say it sounds like crap, which is fine. I'm not here to sell these guitars, so if they sound like crap, it's not for sale anyways. I don't care. It's just basically something for my friends to watch so they have something to do. But anyways, I went directly into a Boss Katana, recording out from the Boss Katana into the DAW. That's what you're going to hear. A couple of different pickup positions. I just put together a little song so you can hear the guitar. If you really want to hear what this guitar can do through a deluxe reverb or a Dr. Z, check out The Longest Car Crash by Church of the Lazy Bastards on Spotify. Most of the guitar work done on that record was this blue guitar. All right, let's give it a listen. So that was my 2014 Fender limited edition American Telecaster Channel-Bound. I don't know why, but I always end up with these guitars that have these super long names and are hard to say. I just call it a Channel-Bound Telecaster. It is a great guitar. It is an awesome looking guitar. It's beautiful. They did come in black and in red. If people are into black guitars, that's not bad. The red, I think, is butt ugly. So if you can find them, they're out there. They'll probably run you anywhere between $1,200 to $1,600. If you come across it and you're in the market for a Telecaster, I would pick it up, man, because they are freaking cool. Yeah, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.